Hello, welcome to the next part of this very, very dense program. And I think the next 30 minutes will also be very dense. My name is Alejandro Bachmann. I work for the Austrian Film Museum in Vienna. And I will talk about the role of experimental cinema in film education. I was asked by Petra and her colleagues to do this because we have been doing so at the Film Museum for a very long time now. And just to give you a very small context, I will say a couple of words about the Film Museum because the fact that we work with experimental cinema didn't come out of the blue. As some of you might know, the Austrian Film Museum was founded in 1964 by two people, and one of them, called Peter Kubelka, is an experimental filmmaker, and probably the most important and renowned Austrian experimental filmmaker, but also quite renowned worldwide as such. And so from the start, when the Film Museum presented its programs in the cinema, experimental cinema was also a very important part of that. So that's why it was clear to us that we had to include experimental cinema into our educational programs. And we have a variety of ways to do this, and I will just mention two so that you get a rough idea. So on the one hand, we have, for example, a program where children curate their own programs, their own film program. They will come to the Film Museum about 5 times in one semester, watch 4 films each time, and in the end they have to curate their own program of experimental cinema, and they will present it at a short film festival which takes place in Vienna every year. And another way we work with experimental cinema is we have a large series of basically formats we present to children. It's called Schools in Cinema, and we invite school classes to come to us and spend between 90 minutes and up to 4 hours at the Film Museum. And there are different formats. There are conversations between filmmakers, but there are also a format which is basically called a lecture, and the idea is that we have one topic, for example, the experience of time in cinema, the experience of space in cinema, montage, mise en scène, all of these things. And we always try to give them a very broad idea of what we mean when we say cinema. So the idea is that they do not only watch important art house films from the history of cinema, but they also should watch blockbusters. They should also watch experimental cinema. They should watch amateur films, industrial films. So we always try to mix all of these different genres and forms of cinema and kind of combine them within one lecture. But sometimes I also work with one single film for an hour with children, if they are very young, for example. And a little bit like this I will proceed from now on. So what will happen now is you will see one experimental film 3, maybe 4 times during this lecture, and in between I will try to articulate a little bit why I think that experimental cinema is a very good way to work with children and in cinema. And I should also mention that the film you will be about to see is a film by Peter Kubelka himself. It's called Schwächerter. It's the 3rd film he made. It's from 1958 and it's 1 minute long. And it's a film I use really for any age group. I use it with 16-year-olds. I use it at university a lot, but I also use it when 6-year-olds come to the cinema. The only thing I have to say beforehand is that any of you have problems with flickering images, it might be better to close your eyes. And with this, we go ahead with the first screening of Schwächerter, Peter Kubelka's 3rd film from 1958. So, what have we just what have we just seen? What we have just seen is exactly 1 minute of film. The film is called Schwächerter. It is from the year 1958, and it was Peter Kubelka's third film. I could tell you the story of how that film came into being. After having made his first 2 films in Austria, Peter Kubelka was running into trouble financially. A friend then told him that he should maybe contact the renowned Austrian beer brewing company Schwächerter. Word had been around that they were supporting artists, giving them money to realize their artworks. And so Kubelka went to them and discussed the options. The result was that they wanted him to make an advertising film for the beer Schwächerter for the cinema. In the beginning, they had 2 conditions. The film had to be exactly 1 minute long, as this was the length for any advertising film at the time, and it had to, at one point, feature the logo or the sign of the brewery itself. As you have just seen, both conditions were fulfilled by Kubelka. But the film was never shown in Austrian cinemas and in the late 1950s or early 1960s. Instead, it is now part of a number of renowned film institutions and film collections in the world, such as the Austrian Film Museums, obviously, the film collection of the Centre Pompidou, or the Museum of Modern Art Film Library. Why was it never shown? Because Schwächerter, contrary to what they had originally discussed with Kubelka, wanted to influence the final form of the film to a far greater extent. Their idea was to invite beauty queens from all of Austria's federal provinces to Vienna. They were to sit in a pub together and drink Schwächerter beer from champagne glasses, raise their glasses, take a sip and say, "Ah, Schwächerter." The company introduced this idea to Kubelka a week before the actual shooting. The beauty queens had already been invited, the pub had been rented. Kubelka declined at first. But as we know, the power is with the money, and so Schwächerter said that if Kubelka did not want to go along, he would not get any money and they would find another director. So Kubelka reluctantly agreed, went home, sat down and thought of a way out of this. So Kubelka, he went to a flea market and bought a camera from the late 1910s. It was a hand-cranked camera. It could only carry 2 minutes of film, and it did not record sound. Kubelka showed up for the shoot with his camera and directly went into action. He told the beauty queens what to do, where to sit, how to behave, and how to say, "Aha, Schwächerter." All the time, he was standing behind his camera and cranking it, and cranking it, and cranking it. Throughout the whole day's shoot, he never changed the reel of film. At the end of the shoot, he told the people from Schwächerter who were watching that he had everything he needed and would go home now to edit. 8 months later, he called them and said that the film was finished. When he showed it to them, what could be seen on the screen is what you have just seen. Schwächerter, the company, did not like the film. It was never shown. But in the beginning, I asked, what have we seen? And the story of how the film got made is not what we have seen. It is only the now legendary story of how what we have seen has come into being. It does not tell us what we have seen. I usually do not tell the story of this film to the children, or I only tell them after we have discussed what we have seen. Why? Because film education has to be about finding a language to describe what we have experienced with our eyes and our ears. By finding a language, we can begin to understand what has happened to us, what cinema did to us, what we have experienced. And by finding a language, we can communicate to others what we have seen and put it into a relationship to what they have seen, when being confronted with exactly the same thing at exactly the same time in exactly the same place. Thus, film education is also about building a community, about being together with others who are unlike me, and about beginning to understand in how far we are alike and in how far we are different from one another. Experimental film is especially prone to do this. Why is that so? Because experimental film makes it very hard for us to approach the aesthetic experience by trying to understand it rationally, or by falling back to what is familiar to us. If you do not know the story of the film, which I have just told you, you have to rely entirely on what you see, what you hear, what you feel. And because experimental films often lack a story that helps us to make sense of the images and lacks psychological characters that help us to identify with what we have seen on the screen, we are left alone with our senses, the ears and the eyes. So again, what have we seen? Children will easily tell you about a couple of things they have seen. They will tell you that there were ladies. And they will tell you that there were some red images and some black and white images. And they will tell you that what they have seen, that they have also seen some sort of flickering on the screen, and that there was a deep bass sound as well as a very high sine wave sound. They will not say sine wave sound, but they will say a very high beep. And then you might ask them why they cannot tell you other things that they have seen. And they will answer that everything passed way too quickly before their eyes, that every time they saw something and wanted to focus on it, it was already gone. So what they are describing in their effort to articulate a frustration is one of the core features of cinema, namely that cinema is an art form or medium that determines for how long you may see something before the next image appears on the screen. Cinema is different from, let's say, reading a book, in that you cannot go back to something you missed and watch it again. You cannot reread a whole sequence or a shot, but you have to follow the rhythm of the artwork. The artwork takes over your senses and decides for them what you may hear or see and for how long you may hear or see it. By acknowledging this, the children have already understood one core feature of what we mean when we say film, namely that we are talking about an art form that is time-based, an art form whose frame is not only on the screen, so the frame of this screen, but also that between the first and the last image, an art form whose core quality is duration. Experimental films such as Schwächerte offer the possibility to experience firsthand what film is at its very core. Your own experience tells you that cinema is a temporal art form and that this means that it has a rhythm, that it is composed very much like a musical piece, where the notes and their lengths create rhythm that our bodies are confronted with and which it identifies as music. Children will utter this quite instantly when you ask them to describe as precisely as possible how the red frames and the high and the low sound on the soundtrack appeared and reappeared on the screen. They will say that they all appeared at recurring intervals throughout the 1 minute, that they are similar to the chorus of a song, that there was a link between the red frames and the sounds, and that all of them seemed to reoccur more often as the work progressed. So now I might show the film to them again. With everything everybody in the cinema has said in the back of our heads, the experience of seeing the film will be very different. We will focus on how long every image can be seen. We will wait for the red frames and the sounds, and we will, as children do, want to see more than we have already seen. Maybe I will give them one little hint before we start the projection again, to concentrate on the very first thing we see on the screen right at the beginning of the film. Please play the film again. work, sorry. So, the experience of watching Schwächerte, and I would argue any other good experimental film, gets better every time. I have, for example, seen this film probably 500 times, and I still get something out of it. I can find something new in the film and in the film's impact on me every time. Experimental film teaches us very directly that it always makes sense to rewatch something, especially if we had problems to understand or even process what we have seen the first time. It teaches us that things need time and repeated viewing to grow on us. It teaches us that not everything is easily consumable, that some things get better when you spend time with them. So, did you focus on the very first thing you see on the screen? What did you see? At first, children will say that they saw white letters on a black background. Then you might want to ask them what these letters spelled. And most of them will say that it spelled Peter Kubelka, 1958. And then you might ask them to describe the shape of the letters and if they were different from other letters that they normally see at the beginning of films. And then they might say that these letters were somehow shaky and not very still. And then you could ask them of what these letters reminded them, and they might say that it looked a little bit like their own or the handwriting of an elderly person. This might then be the right moment to hand out 35mm film strips to the audience and tell them about how film was made before the so-called digital revolution came. You could then have them look at the film strip and discover how it contains multiple images, one after the other, and how the image at the very top of their film strip might differ from the image at the very bottom of their film strip. And one could then tell them that the film strip they are holding in their hands contains 24 images and that this amounts to 1 second of film on the screen. And you could tell them how the film strip travels through the projector and how the lamp of the projector is darkened between each of these images and lit up again every time one image is between the light of the projector and the lens that magnifies the image, which then travels through the cinema, getting bigger and bigger until it hits the screen where it becomes visible. And you could then tell them that Schwächerte is exactly 1 minute long and that this duration is made up of 1,440 single images. The children will then begin to understand two things that are central to cinema. For one, they will understand that what we are looking at has a material base, namely the film strip, and that this film strip interacts with the projector, and that it is the interplay of a film strip with the projector that transforms the single images on the film strip to one moving image on the screen. Thus, they will understand what we perceive as a whole through our eyes is really only a temporal compression of fragments. They will also become aware that in the process of making film, there is a material base that can be touched, scratched, penetrated, and marked, that the filmmaker will be in bodily contact with a certain moment in that process. You might then lead them back to that very first image in Schwächerte, and they might come to the conclusion that the letters Peter Kubelka 1958 were not recorded to appear on the film strip, but that they were actually scratched onto it by hand. And from this you could talk to them about the fact that cinema is really nothing else than moving patterns of darkness and light projected on the screen. The light falls through those parts of the film strip that Kubelka has scratched with a sharp object, and that it does not fall through where the black emulsion is left untouched. So let's watch Schwächerte again. We have now worked out that film is a temporal medium that aligns our perception with its rhythm. The film decides for how long we see something and which image follows after the next. We have understood that the order of these images does not have to be defined by the need to tell a story, to show us how one person goes from one place to another, for example. Rather, the artist is in total liberty to do with these images whatever he wants. Kubelka, for example, cut the 2 minutes of film he has shot into single images, developed both the negative and the positive, added some red shots, and then spread out all the images on the table, putting them together like a musician writes down his musical score. We have also understood at this point that the artist can make the decision to show us something or show us the next thing 25 times in a second. We have understood that to show us one continuous shot for 5 seconds is only one possibility, and that to show us a totally different image with every new frame is another one, and probably the path that Kubelka has taken with Schwechat. By doing so, and by scratching his name onto the film strip, Kubelka has decided to use the medium very differently from how it is normally being used. By doing so, Kubelka has created a film that is very different from what most children have seen so far, but nevertheless it is a film. It makes use of all the elements that define cinema, but creates an experience that is very unlike most of what we see in commercial cinema. So to come back to the question at the heart of this little lecture, why does it make sense to work with experimental cinema in film education? 1. Experimental cinema has a tendency not to tell stories and not to use characters, and thus often creates an experience that is confusing. And a colleague of ours earlier has called it the storm in our heads, and I like this image very much because it is, if you watch these kinds of film, it creates a storm in our heads. But we cannot talk about it in the usual way, as for example, and then the man did this, and then that happened, and in the end this appeared. It forces us to talk solely about what we have seen or heard, without trying to force these experiments into a coherent whole. The confusion experimental cinema creates is thus a productive one. It unsettles us by taking away what we normally rely on, and thus forces us to concentrate what is left, the visual and acoustic experience we have made. 2. Experimental cinema thus creates a cinematic experience that one could call fundamental, by which I mean that it takes us back to the core elements of what cinema is. 24 single images every second, the projection mechanism, the interplay of shadow and light. And it takes us back to the core elements of what the film experience is, using our ears and eyes to make sense of our experience. By watching experimental cinema, we can discuss these fundamentals based on our own experiences. As I have tried to show it with Schwechat, everything we have learned has its foundation in an experience we have made. We do not start with how projection works and how filmmaking works and how the cinema space works and then watch a commercial narrative film with different eyes. We see a film that is different and take this as a starting point to find out how it is different, why it is different, and most importantly, why it is still a film, why it still works with everything that defines film. 3. Experimental cinema in film education does not only teach us about experimental cinema. It does not only tell us there are alternative ways of making films and these are called experimental cinema. Rather, experimental cinema brings us into contact with the elements that shape all our cinematic experiences, ranging from blockbuster film to documentary, from amateur films to advertising, from the early cinema of attractions to the latest IMAX experience. After you have seen Schwechat and reflected on that experience and how it is different, how it is in direct contact with the essentials of cinema, you will see every film differently. You will begin to understand that the beauty of, for example, Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West lies not only in the way it breathtakingly captures landscapes, how it brings us to close proximity with the worn-out faces of tired Westerners, or creates an epic narrative carried by the overwhelming score of Ennio Morricone. Instead, the next time you will see it, you will begin to understand that its fundamental power and its radical cinematic legacy is based on how it creates a rhythm that penetrates everything we see. by holding each shot longer than any other Western would do, by stretching each pause between sentences uttered by one of its characters to a maximum, by, once again, using one of the fundamental qualities of film, namely to shape and form duration to the extreme. You will see blockbuster action films such as Unstoppable or Transformers and understand how their fast editing is not modern or contemporary at all, but is actually making use of core qualities of the film medium, namely the idea to make use of every single frame to destroy continuity. And you might see advertising and understand how very boring and uncreative these works of moving image culture are, how little they make use of the potentials of cinema, and how 70 years ago a filmmaker made a piece of advertising with a camera from the 1910s, his hand, and a strong, powerful mind to subvert commercial interests. Experimental cinema's role in film education, then, is to create confusion, a productive confusion. By being different from what we know, it forces us to rely on what we have seen and heard. And by relying on what we have seen and heard, we are returning to what cinema is at its core. Yes, it is a medium to tell stories, to make us cry if the boy does not get the girl, or if the heroine dies. But so is literature, and theater, and opera. Yes, it is a medium to create exciting sensations, but so is music and painting and the circus. But it is also a medium that takes images from the world to recreate an audiovisual world completely governed by its own laws, which are defined somewhere between the apparatus and the creative potential of the artist. With experimental cinema, we understand that films are made in the intersection between the specificity of a medium and the creative urge of an artist. We understand that the ideas an artist has are always already connected to the possibilities the medium offers. In other words, Schwechat looks the way it does because Kubelka dealt with what film is at its very core. He would not have made Schwechat had the tools in his hands been a MacBook and the possibilities of digital editing. If I said in the beginning that film education is about finding a language that helps us to communicate what we have experienced in cinema, the emphasis has to be in cinema. We know how to talk about stories, we know how to talk about characters, and we know how to talk about things that seem to make sense. Experimental cinema can teach us to talk about what we have seen and have heard without forcing it into one larger interpretation that completely makes sense. It can make us aware of what seeing and hearing really is because it is not governed by all the other elements that are also part of all the other art forms. It can thus bring us back to the original potential that cinema carried when it first saw the light of day in the café in Paris in 1895. To reconfigure our senses and make use of that very reconfiguration. And to make use of it, we need to learn to talk about it, freed from all the dead freight that is part of all other art forms. Thank you very much.
So kakšno vprašanje za Alejandra, lahko tudi za Teso, ki je govorila prva? Tudi na balkonu.
Hello, Alejandro.
Hi.
Igor from Slovenian Cinematheque. Actually, I had an experience to show some abstract animation by Norman McLaren to kids, and that was a funny and quite not so difficult job. But my question is, how long do you think like a program of non-narrative experimental films as the one by Kubelka you screened us the kids could follow easily? Like I would say that it should be shorter than the program, right?
Yes, I mean, it kind of depends a little bit on the age, but for example, the program which I mentioned in the beginning, where we invite school classes to come to us on a regular basis for a whole semester, they would come, for example, 5 times 2 hours each, and we would watch 4 films in those 2 hours and discuss them. And in the end, the program they make is probably about 40 to 50 minutes long. But one has to say that not all of these films are as, let's say, radical as Schwechat. We do use experimental films that are, let's say, that seem at very first sight more appropriate to children, that make use of regular music, for example, that are not as quickly edited and so on. So it kind of depends, I think, on the films. But you are right. I mean, but it's the same with adults. I mean, no adult can actually digest 70 minutes of experimental film, like really digest it. This is the length they use, but mostly. Maybe the thing is, I actually think that experimental cinema is really interesting if you put it into contrast with other things. I think in an educational context, it's not so much about basically confronting them permanently with this kind of cinema, because it would make them tired. Obviously, it would make me tired too. But to kind of combine, for example, an action film with Schwächerta, and then discuss what are the similarities, what are the differences, that I think is a very productive exercise.
Kakšno vprašanje?
Like which films in different sessions you watch?
I mean, we don't have a regular list, but for example, with this program where we work with the children in the course of a semester, I work together with a colleague who works at Sixpack Film, which is a distributor for experimental film in Austria. And so basically in the beginning, we make a collection of, let's say, 40, 50, 60 films, and we watch all of them and then decide to kind of which to bring in and which not to bring in. And the thing is, like, I have hardly ever shown an experimental film, and I've shown them Stan Brakhage, I've shown them Peter Kubelka, I've shown them Mary Menken, I've shown them earlier stuff by Man Ray and people like that. The thing is, it almost always worked. The only thing is, with longer works, I kind of feel that it becomes complicated. To watch 10 minutes of a film like this might be a little bit too much asking of them. And then, I don't know, like, the criteria is really, you work with the children, and then you also, so you meet them the first time, you work with them for 2 hours, and afterwards we discuss. So what worked, what didn't work, what have they learned, what else could they learn? And so we go from basically one session to the next. We never decide, so these are the 20 films they will see, and then we go, but we choose 4, see what worked, in which direction are the conversations going, do they totally dislike something that maybe doesn't make sense to show to them again. So, I mean, I don't have a list, but I can probably tell you 10 films of experimental film history or something that might be a good starting point.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know where you are. But
Še kakšno vprašanje? Aha, imamo še nekaj minut. We have
So,
minute.
which criteria do you choose from when you choose a film for kids, for like very little kids?
with experimental
Yes,
cinema?
with experimental films. Is the length of the film the only criteria?
No, the
No.
length is not the only criteria. It is really about in how far I think it is a visual experience that they can connect with in some way. And by connecting, I do not mean that they will like it from the start, but there are obviously films, but this goes for any choice of films you work with in the context of children. Like I would try to stay away from nudity, I would try to stay away from violence, these things obviously. But then again, working with these kinds of films, some people do not like it. Some parents, for example, do not like it. It has not happened, but you might imagine that a parent asks me, why do you show an advertising film for beer to children? I mean, and then a long discussion may start why you do it or why you don't do it. But so far, mostly the interesting thing is, for example, once I worked with children, they were 10 years old, and they put together a program that was then shown at the Internationale Kurzfilmtage in Oberhausen, which is kind of a renowned short film festival. And it was shown there, and afterwards there were really some parents that were really angry with me, but not because of the experimental films, but because there was a cartoon with Bugs Bunny in it. Because Bugs Bunny took a machine gun at one point and shot at, I don't know, Daffy Duck or something like this. This really annoyed them. They thought this is absolutely not possible that I show something like this to children, but they were fine with the experimental film. So it's really, I don't know, I always find it very hard to describe how I choose it. It's kind of a gut feeling. You have to know the children. That is, I think, very important. You have to kind of be sensible to how they react to things, how they speak about things, and so on. So confronting children that you do not know at all with these kinds of films might be problematic. So you kind of have to make a small step forward. Schwächerter is probably not a film I would start with right away. I would start with something else and then find out if they would be interested in seeing Schwächerter.